Well, thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Thank you. Now, you know I love inspiring stories. You know, I like stories when you hear really move your human spirit into strength. I'm going to tell you, imagine you're 40 years old and you go for a mammogram and you're told, hey, you do have breast cancer. Not only do you have breast cancer, they say you have aggressive breast cancer. That must be very, very scary indeed. Well, my next guest went through that, and while she was recuperating, while she was doing her chemo, lying down as a victim of breast cancer, she started thinking, what can I do with life? What can I do? And she started thinking, and she got this great idea to create handbags. Well, today she has handbags that is almost like a big international brand called the Jules Collection. But let me keep quiet so we get to talk to herself. Show some love for Juliette Mills-Lutterodt. Juliette, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, man.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Wow, you look very familiar. You know, you look like somebody I know. Director, can we get a close-up of her? If we, yeah. And I'm looking at this person. I'm thinking, you look like Majid Michel.
Yes.
Just kidding. Well, that's her brother, you know. But anyway, Juliette, you went through breast cancer, mammogram at 40.
Yes.
And
3 years ago, I went for my first mammogram, and I made jokes about it. I am also a hairstylist, and in the salon, I made jokes about it before I went. Talk about how I'm going to get squeezed up and all of that. But little did I know, as I went through breast cancer with the testing to see if everything was clear, there was cancer cells and a small one starting to grow. And it was an aggressive type of cancer. There were four different spots that had to be tested, and finally the doctor concluded on one that was extremely aggressive that I needed to take care of right away. Luckily, it was caught very, very early. So that made it a better catch, a great catch, because when you're young, your body hormonally is producing so much estrogen that feeds into these cancer cells and makes them grow rapidly. And not knowing what you're eating, your diet, when you're putting different things in your body that are high in estrogen, like yams, soy, potatoes, sweet potatoes especially, and other things that we put in our body that are good for you, but when you're going through early stages of breast cancer and you're young, you should not eat at all.
Wow.
So that
the cancer cells
important.
feed on those things?
The cancer, that feeds into the cancer cells and makes it grow rapidly because of the estrogen. When your body when you're young, before menopausal in a woman, where your body reduces the estrogen level that it produces, estrogen feeds into those cancer cells and makes them grow rapidly. So food that are high in estrogen, why women get hot flashes, is because their level of estrogen has dropped. So when your level of estrogen is high, you don't get those hot flashes. So that is a sign of early stages of menopause when you start to get those hot flashes. It's a good thing when you have breast cancer because then your levels of estrogen has dropped. So with me, I was turning 40 and not ready to go through menopause at all. Menopause usually starts for most women after 50. So it was very important. My doctor had to act very aggressively going in to make sure that we're going to take care of this. We're going to
You did the test and then he came back and said you have...
I did the test and he came back on Valentine's Day that I had breast cancer. My husband was away on a business trip. So I remember going to his office, getting the news, coming home and going to bed. I was very sick that day. I had the flu. So I came home and went to bed. I didn't say anything to him until he got back from the trip. And I said, you know,
How did you take the news? How did the doctor say, was it straight up, you have breast cancer?
The doctor just said they've seen some cancer cells, that it's very tiny, but it's an aggressive kind, and they need to do a biopsy to really test to see what level it is. But going forward, he wanted me to know there is cancer existing, and I will be doing some chemo. I might be doing some radiotherapy, and the journey is going to be a little tough.
How did you process that? How did that hit you?
I don't remember the drive home. I remember thinking of my children. I have 3 boys. At the time, they were 16, 9, and I believe 7. So that was the first flash in my mind. And the second thing was, because when you hear cancer, you know,
Yeah.
you're made to believe you're going to die.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true anymore. I think that 80% is, at least 70% of women who go through breast cancer especially survive.
Survive, yeah.
And they survive haven't even stepped a foot in the hospital. So I think that early detection is so important. It's so important. But the family is what really first went through my mind. And I live every day. So if I die tomorrow, it's okay because I live every day. And I enjoy everybody around me every day. You have to live. You have to live.
Yeah. How did you break it to your husband when he came from his trip?
I just I just opened up and said, honey, I spoke to the doctor, I went to see him, and the results clearly state that there is some cancer in my breast, and we need to address it immediately. Knowing him, he would do every research in the world to find.
Yeah.
He's a very technical person. So, and you see the person healthy. He saw me healthy. So how dare they say you have cancer? You're healthy, you're fine, everything is good. So that is, he took it very well. He took it very well. The next thing was, okay, where do we go from here?
Okay.
What is the next step for us to do to begin and get you healthy again? And that is exactly what we did.
That's what you did.
Yes.
And you got, wow,
Yes.
show some love, man. Show some love. I'm glad he didn't go, must be the old lady in your family, or, you know. No, but I'm so glad. And you went through it.
I went through it. I went through chemo. I went through a full mastectomy. It was important for me to remove the entire breast because of the type of cancer that I had. If I had done a lumpectomy, the chances of it coming back was higher.
Lumpectomy is just removing the lump.
It's just removing the lump.
Okay.
A mastectomy is removing the entire tissue, gone. So what I did was immediately after the day they did the surgery, they begin your reconstruction process. So you go through the surgery and then reconstruction begins. And it's also a journey. You have to go back for a couple of more surgeries to make sure that everything is even and everything for your clothing purposes so that it looks even. And psychologically, when you take off your clothes, you want to look like you're okay. Because psychologically, years ago, it affected a lot of women who would look at themselves naked and felt very deformed. And depression was set in. So now it is almost inevitable. The doctors really want to be sure that you do have reconstructive surgery immediately after your cancer to begin to make you feel like a woman again, because we validate that as women to feel complete. So that was important. But it was a really wonderful process because the doctors were great, the nurses were wonderful. I had a great family support, my kids, my husband, my family and friends, everybody praying, everybody around me. And you having a very direct plug with God, you believing that you will be okay. I remember I used to wake up in the middle of the night and pull up a chair and I say, God, you gotta sit down, we gotta talk because I'm not going anywhere. You know, so that's important.
So you had chats with him? And
I had intensive chats with him when my family was asleep. It was just one-on-one. You gave me 3 kids, not to take me away. I need to finish what you've given me.
All right.
So believing that, you know, you have to, everybody can pray for you, but you have to believe. Yeah. You have to know that you know that you know that you know that you will be okay. And that was important. I jumped on that horse and rode it down.
All right. I'm very sure when you had that chat with God, He says, you're good, no worries. Give you a thumbs up and
yes, that's when you have a strong belief and you also, you know, you do the right thing. Your belief alone doesn't get you there. You cannot just pray. You have to have the right doctors. You have to have the right support. You have to read. You have to know what right food to eat, what to exercise, all of that. It all ties in. You cannot just pray and say God has got you. You really have to do your research as well in finding the right people to support you through that. And that was good.
Fantastic. And another very intriguing thing is that during the time you were recuperating, that's when you started thinking, what do I do with my life?
Yes, what do I continue to do with my life? I knew that my doctor had narrowed it down to my breast cancer being environmental, which means that part of my work was part of it. So with all the hairsprays and all of the chemicals in the salon, I had to really sit back and say, okay, what am I going to do now in the salon, I need to pull back and drop my days a little less and make better choices in the products that I buy. I took the aerosol spray out of the shop. I created more windows and more ventilation so that we have that across the board. And I started working outside of the shop a little more. And while I was recuperating, Jules Collections was born.
Wow. So what gave you the idea to go into bags in that state?
It's not what happens to you, it's how we get through it, it's how I know to do. And the minute, I'm the type of person who constantly thinks of ways to make money, ways to grow. I need to be challenged all the time. I never like to be bored. So it was a boring time for me. I was going through the chemo, I'm in the bed. I'm not a bedroom person. I don't like to be there just moping. So while I was in there, I was going through a magazine and looking at the end of the magazine and looking at the prices of these beautiful handbags from Christian Dior, from Gucci, from Louis, from all of these different big names. And I said, why can't I put my name on the bag? So I started to do research and going forward, looking at the different manufacturers who will take. But I knew if I was going in to put a name on a merchandise, I needed it to be good quality, you know, good stitching, and it needed to represent what I represented, which was good quality stuff. And that's exactly what I did. Fantastic. I came out with a handbag line called Jules Collections and have made a lot of women who come to do their hair and leave with a bag.
Let's take a second look at some shots from Jules Collection. Here we go. Well, we're back. And how can people get this?
We have a website, julescollections.com. We are on Facebook, Shop Jules Collections. We are on Twitter, Jules Collections. And if you have any questions in terms of hair care, julesstudios.com. We will be more than happy to help you. Jules Studios is looking to open up a school in Ghana called Jules Academy. In the next few years, we're working on that. We also have our own private label coming out with hair products called Ujana by Jules.
Wow.
So we're busy.
So there you have it. All that information is on your screen right now if you need more information. And the bags are beautiful. I'm getting one myself. Well, not for myself.
We have a men's collection.
You have a men's collection?
Yes, we
all
do.
Right. I get the one for the men and get the ladies one for my wife, man. Show some love, man. Anyway. Juliette, it's been so much fun hanging out with you.
Thank you so very much.
Very, very inspiring story.
Thank you.
And by all means, keep it up. I don't know what to see next, but I give it up for Jules Collection, man. All right.
Thank you.
Let's take it off, folks. We'll be right back.
If you a girl and you wear sexy clothes and you got sexy shoes, put your hands up for me, boss and mommy. What's up, Ghana? You're watching TGIF with KSM. This is easy, baby.
This season, we're going to keep rocking and still be normal.